today's press conference. I'm your host, Jim DeLorenzo, the principal of Jim DeLorenzo Public Relations. You can find me online at jimdelorenzo.com. A reminder that I'm always available to answer your questions about public relations, how it works, what it is, how it can help you. Please feel free to email me at jim@jhdenterprises.com. Contact me through LinkedIn or on Twitter, where my handle is @jhd16. In my public relations career, I've had the good fortune to meet many interesting people: authors, athletes, entrepreneurs, reporters, coaches, executives, editors, entertainers, and innovators. My guest today is a new friend and acquaintance of mine, a colleague, Bruce Rubin. He is a longtime executive focused on assisting companies launching new products and helping them expand their existing business with services ranging from product development, sourcing, and marketing support, as well as locating appropriate financing for the company to launch or to grow. He is the founder of BHR Global, a consulting firm, Global Associates, but he is also a founding member of the Executive Leaders for Advisory Boards. Bruce and that group of over 40 select company founders, owners, corporate officers, entrepreneurs, and global leaders helps companies at all stages of growth, companies that need a dedicated team of advisors to build, enhance, and reform their business. And I had the honor of meeting Bruce for the first time a few months ago after I was asked to be a part of ELAB, the Executive Leaders for Advisory Boards. So thank you for being a guest on my show today.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
In our conversation before the show today, one of the things that I was interested in, your business as a consultant,
right,
and what you do for companies as a consultant. You're basically involved with companies that have a product line or manufacturing.
Correct.
How do you help those companies? What are some of the things that you do?
If it's a company that's established, I can help them expand their product line into associated product lines. The first thing I would do is take them to a store, be it Walmart, Target, Home Depot, Lowe's, and say, where's your product or your competitor's product? And look all the way around next door on the base.
Sure.
And say, all of these are being bought by the same person. Why can't you make these products faster, better, and cheaper? So you can go out and to a buyer who's paying $1, as an example, for a widget, and sell it to him for 75 cents. He can keep selling it for the same retail, but you're giving him a better product. You're making you're making the margin you want, and now you've enhanced your real estate. And you have to see that buyer anyway.
Right.
So that's one way. The other, other than, to expand their product lines, or if they want to get into new product lines, I can, based upon my global contacts, can almost help them develop any type of product, from toilet seats to shower heads, right, to casters for furniture, et cetera. And, or if they just need help sourcing an injection molded part or an electrical part or whatever, I can help with that, as well. So just to augment their line, or if they're having supply chain issues, they can't get it from wherever. And wherever could be China, or it could be, Haddonfield, New Jersey. I can work with the vendor or get an alternative vendors to make sure everything works out. And part of the issue might be their forecasts aren't right.
Sure.
And help them with all of that, because I've developed forecasting models and all, as part of what I've done as well.
Okay. How did you get started in that line of work?
Kind of happenstance.
Okay.
I was involved in inventory control and most of my career, and started out in that, and then as things progressed, got involved in product sourcing and purchasing, and then eventually into product development, and one kind of built on the other. And in some cases, somebody else didn't want to do it, and they said, well, Bruce, why don't you developed this line for us. And the first product line, one of the first product lines I developed was a line of showers. If you have a tub on lakes that doesn't have a shower, I helped develop a product line, mimicking competition, but again, doing it faster, better, and cheaper. And I kept getting rejected by the vice president of sales that what we were delivering wasn't good enough. So eventually I brought in the competitor's product and I said, what do you think of this? He says, it's a piece of garbage. I said, well, that's what you're telling me, that's the competitor's product. Now here's what I'm delivering. Now you tell me mine isn't good enough. And weeks later we were in business, took the business away from the competitor because now they knew how much better ours was and we were cheaper, and we ended up selling millions of dollars to Sears and other people at the time.
Interesting. One of the things that I find fascinating about our conversations is you're a big believer in taking people to the factory, taking people to the store, getting the company owner or the individual that's in charge to actually see what's going on.
Absolutely.
And that seems to be something that's so common sense, but at the same time it sounds like it's something that doesn't happen very often.
I don't think it does. Yeah. And I believe in, one of the things that I'm, trying to get in talking to companies is asking them, are you maximizing your vendor's efficiency to minimize your costs? And a number of years ago, I was presented with a 5% price increase by a vendor, and we were buying $2 million worth of his product. So $100,000 right to the, and I said, we can't accept it, what can we do? And he came back and he said, well, we can give you a 3% price decrease, but it was rolled vinyl. We have to increase the roll to 500 yards instead of 125. I said, we can't pick that up. And he said, well, there's a machine that'll help you do that. It costs $2,500. We'll pay for half, you pay for half. So we saved, not only didn't have a $100,000 increase, we spent $1,250 and got a $60,000 decrease. So it was we saved $160,000 in effect.
But it was about talking to them and finding a way to
and having been there, I understood what he was talking about. Of course, the machines are running at 100 miles an hour, and our product needed to run at 25 miles an hour, and that doesn't add up. And as it turned out, as a side benefit, when you took the rolls and put them into sheets. We were putting in 4 rolls at a time, which is 500 yards. With the 500-yard rolls, we could put 2 on the machine, which was 1,000 yards. So we could cut up more product quicker. And we ended up saving basically half an employee or overtime. And that was another side benefit from doing it. But if I didn't understand his processes, and he knew that I understood, there wouldn't have been any, never would have happened. And I did that with somebody who did printing, our packaging, and I went and I said, what can you do? And what will make you more efficient? Right. And he came back with 2 options. One didn't work, but the other one worked fine, and we ended up saving, somewhere around $50,000 a year, just because they became more effective. And so I could walk through plants and ask some questions, and if I can't save, depending on the size of the company, them a few $100,000, I would be surprised. Right. And you can tell that in a lot of cases just from the dust on the boxes. Sure. That something's not right. Yeah. So
it's interesting, and that common sense approach also applies to a question I've had for a long time, and I think others have that question too. And we're going to talk about ELAB in our second segment, but for people who confuse the terms, what is the difference between a consultant, which is what you're doing at BHR Global Associates, and an advisor?
Okay, an advisor, in my opinion, is a guide to lead you down a path, and you take care of doing the work. A consultant is in effect an employee. He's, maybe temporary, but he's basically an employee, and he's doing the work, and also, maybe helping some of your people do the work, but it's basically a guide versus an employee.
And the guide becomes the trusted voice for the CEO or the owner, to bounce ideas off of, to help them with their problems.
Right.
Whereas the consultant is the person who comes in after the advisor may have said to the CEO, you need somebody to do this.
Right. Absolutely correct.
Gotcha.
And, the advisor may be paid, but his goal is to make the company be around a long time. The
Right.
consultant is there to fix a problem. It's like going to a mechanic. My brakes don't work.
Yeah.
Fix the brakes. He's not worried about the whole car.
Right. You're just worried about the brakes in that particular
Right.
instance.
Right.
And that's a consultant, if you will. The guy
Correct.
who's working on your brakes is your consultant
That's
for
correct.
the brakes.
Right.
But your advisor is saying, okay, it's time to sell the
The
car.
car. Absolutely.
Gotcha. Okay, that's interesting. That's a nice way to describe it.
Yeah, so, yeah.
And you've been at this for a little bit.
Yes.
How many years?
Going on 15. One day I was called into the owner of the company I was working for office. I'd been there 12 years, was the vice president of operations. It started out as inventory control manager, and I was vice president of operations. And he says, I don't think it's going to work out. And I said, okay.
Right.
I'm not one to rant and rave and bounce up and down. He said, you have any questions? Yeah. I said, can I get a copy of my resume so I can update it?
Good.
And he said, that's all you want? I said, that's all I want. It's Friday afternoon at 4:30.
Right.
What am I going to do? You'll hear from my lawyer on Tuesday.
Right.
No. So he had made up his mind, and that was it. And then after looking for the next, quote unquote, next big thing, which wasn't going to happen, I decided to take all this experience I have and my network of independent sales reps and contacts globally for sourcing a product and put it together and package it as BHR Global Associates.
Wonderful. And here we are 15 years later.
Right.
I like it. Well, we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about ELAB.
Okay.
And your role with ELAB as well. So we'll be right back after these messages.
At Rowan University after graduation.
And get a bachelor's degree for around $30,000.
Online and Mount Laurel students get a 15% Rowan University tuition discount.
And have many scholarship opportunities.
So you earn more and pay even less.
Rowan College of Burlington County.
Your path to success.
They are the greatest fighting force the world has ever seen. But what does it take to strengthen our service members? What does it take to let them know that we stand behind them, wherever they are? What does it take to bridge the distance and keep them connected to family, home, and country? And what does it take to prepare them for their future when their service to the nation is complete? What does it take to strengthen our service members so they can be the greatest force for good in the world? It takes a force. Be a force behind the forces. Share a message today at force.uso.org.
I want to be a contender. I want a warm belly to sleep on.
A big house.
How do I look? Do I look good?
I want to play hard.
My nails done once a month.
I want
a home. I just want a home. I want someone to love.
Last year, more than 30,000 companion animals came to us without homes. 20,000 of them were felines. Let's make some homes together.
Add us on social media to watch bloopers, behind-the-scenes footage, previews, and more.
Choosing Medicare coverage can be a very confusing and complicated process. Help is just a phone call away, 856-226-4800. As a licensed insurance agent, I'll assist you in making an informed and confident decision on a Medicare plan that meets your needs, lifestyle, and...
Welcome back to Press Conference on RVN-TV. I'm Jim DeLorenzo, of Jim DeLorenzo Public Relations, and my guest today is Bruce Rubin, and we've been talking about the difference between a consultant and an advisor, and Bruce is one of the founding members of Executive Leaders for Advisory Boards. And I wanted to talk to you about that in this next segment because as someone who was also invited and honored to be invited to be part of ELAB, as we call it, I'm very interested in the growth of the group and how we've gotten to where we are today.
Okay.
So talk to me, if you will, about your visions and the group's visions for ELAB going forward, as far as how an advisory board can help businesses in this area.
Okay, the group, which will be limited to no more than 50 members, all of whom have diverse, different backgrounds, so there's not a lot of overlap on who's partaking, who's part of the group. And we are based upon our backgrounds, and we've all been vetted by Candida Cisak, who founded the group. And the goal is to work with companies from 20 to 25 million up to, no ceiling in the Mid-Atlantic region, and provide them with advisory boards that can help them grow and become even better than they are, and are either at a crossroads or looking to expand somehow and need assistance in different areas. Based upon a discussion with them, and we have at the moment one methodology for doing that. We're developing others, but it's called the Growth Company Catalyst, where they're invited to come and present during a lunch where that's their one cost involved, and we'll have 5 or 6 selected advisors come, listen to their background and their issues, and then provide feedback onto how to solve their problem, and guidance on what to do, and through that, then hopefully form a formal advisory board, either made up of the 5 or 6 people who are there, or depending on what we find out about their problem, what their problem is, and what they think it is, and what it really is, maybe 2 different things in some cases, so that we will provide them with 5 or 6 advisors who will best fit their company and their needs. And as time goes on, as their needs change and they grow and expand, and if they want to sell, we can move in and out, advisors in and out, who can help them at that point in time. So the advisory board is quote, not a fixed thing, it's more of a living thing.
Right, it's an organic
yeah, and so that
process.
We will, keep changing and updating the board to match the company's profile at the time.
What kind of companies need an ELAB group, a group of advisors that would help them out? What are some of the companies that you're seeing that would benefit from an advisory board? Companies that are
At a crossroads. They're doing X millions of dollars and they're stuck at X millions of dollars. Their profits are not, margins are not what they used to be. And in a lot of cases we say, well, go buy a product less expensive. But sometimes there's nothing to do with the product. They have too much overhead, they have too much issues. They don't know how to market well. They're having problems, and they don't know how to get out of their own way. And we can kind of help them get out of their own way and get on the path and, and move forward. So it's typically, you have to be at maybe at a good crossroads where you're growing, at a rate that you can't keep up with. And, things are quote unquote too good.
Right.
And we could help them, slow down, take a breath, and guide them on, where to add them, the best way to add employees and the way to add to what they're doing without stopping the momentum. So it works both ways. I mean, because sometimes a company be growing at 50 to 75% per year, year over year, and everybody thinks it's wonderful, but but all of a sudden they're going to crash and hit a wall
Right.
because they're not keeping the infrastructure up. They're not doing things that they should be doing to fortify, their base in effect. And so, but because we're eventually going to be paid for our advisory services, they have to have be of a volume that will support us.
Okay. Now, we talked earlier about the difference between consultants and advisors.
Right.
Advisors, in their various roles, will guide the business owner or the CEO
Right.
to the next level of their success. What is the best way to work with an advisor?
Meet with them regularly, and depending on the need, and the feedback would come from the members of ELAB as well as the CEO, but in my opinion, we'd start out monthly, see where it goes, sit down once a month for an hour or whatever, and then as the need eases, we go once every 2 months or once a quarter. But in order to get it started, it needs to be frequent, but not every day kind of thing. But, so to me, it's once a month with the goal to be once a quarter.
Okay.
And hopefully they get there, sooner than later.
Do companies need to be educated on the value of an advisory board?
Yes.
And how?
I mean, it's not a board of it's not a board of directors.
That's what I was going to ask you.
It's strictly, board of directors tend to be people either who own part of the company or are in the company, and they talk about day-to-day problems, but they're in some cases their own worst enemy because they're in the middle of the fight. They can't see,
They've got the tunnel vision that they're dealing with because they're there every day.
We're bringing our experience from, working at any number of companies for any number of years, and taking a new perspective on, we've all been there and done that, and here's what you ought to do. What you're doing may be okay, but it's not quite right, and we're providing advice and guidance to the people, not doing, acting as consultants and doing, quote unquote, doing the work. And we might meet with the CEO, we might meet with the whole C-suite. It all depends on the company and what they're looking for. But we could guide them on how to solve their problem and give them instant feedback. I mean, and if they bring up a problem that one of us can advise on, we've got 40 people in the bullpen. Right. To call on and say, here, and call them up on the phone and say, we've got a problem, and or we have hundreds each one of us in our networks to say, we can solve here's your issue. Or if they need to add staff, we could help. They need to change benefits, package to make it better but less expensive. There's all areas of, guidance that we can provide.
So it's operations, marketing, finance.
Right.
And I always drop out the HR.
HR. Yeah. So
we've
got
those four core areas that are vital to a company's success that sometimes get overlooked. Like one might get overlooked in favor of the other three.
Correct. And we've got people with extensive backgrounds in each of those areas in all types of companies.
Right.
So if you need a technical operations type versus a product operations type like I am, we've got that, and we've got HR issues or finance issues. Every one of those we could address and come at it from a new, basically we don't have all the baggage that comes along with working at the company.
We have the perspective, outsider's perspective, but with the insider knowledge of the experience that we have in our
That's
careers.
right, because we've probably all faced these problems before.
Sure.
And we solved them. Otherwise, we wouldn't be part of ELAB, and B, we wouldn't have been as successful as we were in our careers. So.
Interesting. Well, thank you for being on the show today,
My
Bruce.
pleasure.
I really appreciate the conversation. For those of you who are looking to get more information about ELAB, the Executive Leaders for Advisory Boards, I recommend you go to advisory-boards.org. And you'll see Bruce Rubin's biography on there, along with myself and a few other people that you might recognize. And I encourage you to get in touch with Bruce at ELAB. Apologize. It's the allergy season. I think you're all affected by it as well. I thank you again for watching our show today, and I thank Bruce for being my guest today. And I want to remind our viewers that I look forward to hearing your stories. Feel free to give me a call at 215-266-5943 or email me at jim@jhdenterprises.com. If you have questions for Bruce, you have questions about ELAB, you want to get a hold of him, you can come through me. I'll be happy to send the information along to him as well. And remember that everyone has a story, but not everyone knows how to tell it. I encourage you to tell us your stories. Thank you again for watching Press Conference today.